Your client walks in and shows you an inspiration photo, and you already know that the model in the inspiration photo has completely different starting point than the client in your chair. I'm Eric Vaughn, Kenra Professionals Artistic Director for Kenra Color, and I'm gonna show you guys how to tackle that. My gorgeous model, Annika, showed me an inspiration photo of our red from our recent color campaign, and I knew that her starting point was quite different. So I'm gonna show you how we get from point A to point B fast, salon-friendly, and effectively. Let's get going. So I'm here with my model, Annika, and she sat down today and showed me an inspo photo from our color campaign that we did, our gorgeous red model. We obviously have a very different starting canvas. We've got a couple inches of natural regrowth up here. I would say Annika's about a natural level 6. We've got some old color happening through her mid-lengths, and then obviously her ends are very pre-lightened. So we're gonna be taking a work smarter, not harder approach to her color. And so we're gonna get this done very fast and efficient. When we're working behind the chair, we don't have the time to take 17,000 steps to get to the end result. We need to get it done fast, smart, and efficient. And that's exactly what we're gonna do. So let's jump right in with her base. All right, I've got her base all mixed up, and we're going in with Kenra Color 6C Demi, 9 volume with 1:2 ratio with our developer. I'm doing her base first so I can address her natural pigment. I really wanna make sure we get the vibrancy there because she already has some vibrancy through her mids and ends. Once I get her base on, we'll be mixing up 2 different highlight formulas. One is going to be Lightener, one is going to be High Lift, and I'll explain a little bit more when we get there, but let's get this base on. For starters, I don't do sectioning when it comes to getting my bases on. I wanna work fast and efficient, but if you are new and need to section, that is okay to do a 4-quadrant parting and get your base on. But for me, I wanna get this on fast and efficient, so I just move through the hair. The biggest tip that I can give you when applying your bases is work in some diagonal backs, and it'll really help you with your partings and getting through the hair much faster. So I'm going to kind of start from the top, right off that part line, and really saturate through to her line of demarcation. I'm not looking to go past her line of demarcation because I know I'm going to do a pull through once I have all of her highlights in, but I am going to do diagonal backs all the way back to her crown, so that way I can cover a very large surface area in a very short amount of time. So I'm just gonna continue working this all the way down the head and all the way around. So I'm gonna continue applying, and we'll come back to start popping in our highlights. Our base is fully on and saturated. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take diagonal back sectioning on both sides of her part to include her entire hairline. And we're gonna bring all of that forward, clipping all of this back out of the way. So I'm gonna do that on both sides. Just making sure my sections are nice and even. They are. So we're gonna clip this up out of the way and begin working on our face frame placement first. So I'm gonna begin on her right side of her head here. I'm gonna section this little top part out of the way for now and work on her sides and her back. I'm gonna be using 2 different formulations. I'm gonna be using our Simply Blonde Beyond Bond Lightener with 10 volume. I don't need a ton of lift, but I do wanna get some pop in there so when we gloss her all over, she's super vibrant around her face. I also wanna put like a mid-light in there. So I'm using our Ultra Lift Natural, equal parts to 8C from our Permanent range with 30 volume 1:2. When I'm lifting with High Lift and adding in a color pigment to it, I'm doing that because it has a higher lifting cycle. So I wanna make sure we get maximum lift as possible, but I'm adding in that 8C so we deposit pigment as well. So I'm creating lift and deposit at the exact same time and getting this beautiful mid-light for her. I'm excited for you guys to see it when this is all done. So let's get into our highlight application. So I'm working in larger subsections. I don't need itty bitty fine slices for this. So I'm taking a little bit of a larger section here, clipping the remainder out of the way. And this is going to be my lightener. So I'm gonna give a very soft tease, a soft weave, very soft. I'm not taking a ton of hair in these highlights. I'm gonna start further down in my section, feathering over my ends. Her ends are already on the lighter side, so I don't need to fully saturate, but I am gonna feather them so they get a little bit of a brighter pop as well. And I'm just going to feather that up with a diagonal towards the face. So that way I maintain a little bit of extra pop around her face, but I'm not going super high. My next section, dropping that down, and I'm connecting into my back. So this way I can target her entire perimeter at the exact same time. I'm gonna break this into 2 sections here, so that way I've got 1 and 2. Again, I'm going to give this a very soft tease, do a very soft weave. Again, leaving dropouts here because I know I'm going to be going back in and doing a pull through. So I wanna make sure I leave pieces to pull through to get my base in between. Again, I painted that slight diagonal up. We're over directed forward, we've teased, and we're painting a slight diagonal up. So when this is all brushed out, we're gonna have a very soft, seamless result. And for my last piece here, same thing right in the nape. We're connecting this all the way around, a very soft tease, a very soft weave, and I'm repeating the exact same thing on this side, but I am going to be holding this slightly lower. So if you notice, my first foil started high, my next one got a little lower, and my last one here gets a little bit lower. I'm gonna wanna maintain a little bit of depth right around her neck, which is gonna make this color pop. Again, feathering all the way up with my angle. Just gently feathering over her ends. I don't need a full thorough saturation. So in 3 foils, my side and back hairline are fully connected. And on my last piece here, I'm gonna give that a soft tease as well. And this is going to be my midlight. Doing a slightly stronger weave. And now I'm going to be using my high lift formula. And again, this is my high lift natural with 8C equal parts with 30 volume 1 to 2. So I'm going right through the mid, where I wanna make sure I get the most lift possible, especially because I know I'm breaking through some old color. The thing I like about using the Ultra Lift in addition to the 8C is it has a higher ammonia concentration, so I know I'm gonna get a stronger lift, which is what I'm looking for. Strong, yet gentle, and depositing color at the exact same time. This way, when I gloss her highlights all over, she's going to have her base pull through, she's gonna have a mid-light, and a highlight, putting so much dimension in, and it's gonna be so fast and seamless. I'm gonna repeat this exact same thing on the other side, and then we'll come back to do our little face frame placement together. All right, we've got both of our sides evenly done now, connecting into our back perimeter. So now we're gonna dress our front face frame. We want this to be noticeable, but we still want it to be soft. We don't wanna create this like big, bold money piece on this red, especially knowing that we're going to gloss this all over. We wanna make this nice and soft. So I'm picking up on her right side, a slight diagonal back. It's a very skinny parting, and I'm gonna give it a soft tease. And I'm gonna do a little bit of a deep weave, leaving a fair amount of dropout. And I'm gonna start my placement lower. I don't want this to be too bold, too high. Using her eyebrow height as my reference point, I'm going in with my lightener. And I'm going to paint slightly higher towards the front of her hairline, slightly lower towards the back. And if I set that down, I've painted exactly at her eyebrow. I'm using that as my exact reference point. So when this opens up around her face, it looks really beautiful and pops out there versus being too high. This is a really great way to get that like soft, skinny money piece without it being too bold and chunky. But when they like style their hair, it fans out around their eyes and it looks so beautiful. Perfect, so we're gonna leave that sitting there. And now we're gonna drop down our second and last piece of this front face frame. Give it that soft tease, pushing up. Weave right through that, leaving just a little baby dropout. And if I put my first one at my eyebrow and I wanna make it soft, I'm gonna drop slightly below my eyebrow to paint the second. Still feathering up higher towards the front, lower towards the back. And again, I'm really just feathering over those ends because they are already light, but just a soft brightening. See how my product is very heavy through that mid and then it's very light on those ends? That's what I mean by a soft feather. All right, I'm gonna pop this on the other side and we'll come back to do our interior highlight placement. Perfect, we've finished our entire perimeter hairline placement. So now we're gonna be working on our interior. I have her sectioned all the way down the center from her front part line all the way down to the back. And we're gonna be working in halves, meeting in the middle as we move all the way up, making this super fast behind the chair. So I'm gonna take my first section. I wanna leave a good amount of interior depth. Since I know I'm doing a vibrant pull through, I wanna leave a lot of depth through here. I wanna work smarter, not harder. So we're probably gonna end up putting in about 3 foils on each side, making this very, very fast. So this will be my first. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some wide weaving to create almost more of a panel-y effect in her color. So I'm gonna go in and out, in and out, in and out, creating 3 very wide panels that are gonna live in her color. I'm using a large foil, placing that in and down. Now what I wanna remember, my hairline placement around her eyes is at her eyebrow level. If I paint higher than that, we could potentially have a disproportionate color and I need to melt this down. So always keep that in mind when you use reference points to start your highest peak of your color. Don't forget that as you're moving into the interior pieces. So I'm going to use my high lift first, painting that down to get my mid-length nice and in. I'm gonna feather that down over the ends so that way I can get some of that colored pigment deposit. And I'm gonna feather a little bit more random. As to where on her face frame, I was feathering that sharper, slight high to low towards the face. I'm giving this a little bit more of a random feather because I don't just wanna have this horseshoe drop. I wanna create a little bit more peak in the interior. So again, heavily resaturating in the area where I wanna make sure I get maximum lift. Feather, and I'm gonna leave those ends out and just place my sheet on top. And we'll just fold and fold. So this is taking me all the way from my front hairline placement all the way to her back center part. So when I connect this on the other side, I have completed all the way around her head. Now we're on our second section, same thing. I'm gonna skip just a little bit behind my hairline. In, out, in, out, in, out. With my lightener, I'm going to give it a slight tease just to ensure that I have a lot of softness. Placing my foil in, again, keeping my marker in check of where I want to paint. Placing that lightener down heavily through the midsection, feathering over my ends. And now we're just gonna feather. Placing our second sheet on top and moving on to our last highlight. Again, connecting all the way from my face frame all the way back to her crown. I will be leaving this section on top as a veil. On our last subsection, this is going to be our high lift again. Scooping slightly back from my face frame placement. I'm going in, out, in, out, in, out. So again, that is that wide panel highlight. Keeping my reference point in mind, feathering this up, feathering over the ends, And I'm just gonna resaturate again through that mid section where I wanna make sure I get maximum brightness. Beautiful. See how easy this is? It's so fast, so simple. This is something that you could easily do behind the chair in such a quick amount of time. So I'm just gonna repeat on the other side and we'll come back for our pull through. Now we are gonna go in with our all over pull through. We'll be pulling this through every single bit of her hair that's left out, including all of the teasing that we did around her face. We're gonna wanna saturate that as well. It's a really great trick on coloring your teasing because when that hair is rinsed and brushed back out, all of that hair redistributes back through, creating new internal depth. So you can really customize however you want. So make sure when you're doing a technique like this to make sure you saturate that teasing really, really well. If you don't saturate it well, it can become really splotchy and that's not the vibe. So now we're gonna start pulling everything through. I wanted to show you that I have my veil on each side of her part line. So that will lay over all of that highlight and low light, mid light that we added in the interior. So I'm just gonna start saturating all the way through. I'll start working from my top all the way down to the bottom. And I'm just gonna kiss those two formulas together. The formula I'm pulling everything through with is 40 grams of 6C, 20 grams of 9GB, and 10 grams of 6R. I'm using that GB to shear out my formula slightly. I still wanna have like a red copper being my primary tone, with a little bit of that red secondary to kind of help fill some of these ends that have been pre-lightened. But I am using that GB to kind of shear out my formula a little bit and not neutralize too much. And I'm just gonna apply this all over the head, and I'll come back when I'm applying on these hairline foils so I can show you how I saturate that teasing. So I wanted to bring you guys back in because I know it can be a little scary sometimes thinking about saturating through teasing. So I flip my foil back and really press into that tease so that way it's fully saturated. It's also nice because this gets everything off of her face as well. Just dragging through my little ends here in the front. We'll do this one more time as we flip our last foil back. And don't be afraid to kind of drag it into that foil as well. So I'm gonna saturate my tease really, really well. And now I'm just gonna saturate through these ends. And now her color is on, fully saturated. We're gonna get her hairline cleaned up just a little bit, and we're gonna let this process for about 20 minutes. And I'll see you back once we have everything rinsed out. Our red already looks absolutely gorgeous. We still need to do one final step to gloss these little highlights. I'm obsessed with where these highlights are sitting. You can see just by the way that we applied the highlights, they really are peeking out right at her eyebrow level, which I absolutely love. Now, before we go in and gloss, and I'm gonna tell you our gloss formula, I'm going in with the Porosity Equalizing Spray before I gloss. This is really, really important because obviously you wanna equalize the porosity so you can guarantee even color results, but it also has aloe in it, so it's gonna go in and condition the hair, making it easier for you to get through while you're trying to do your glossing. So make sure you have your Porosity Equalizing Spray before you gloss, super important. Now, when it comes to applying our gloss formula, this to me is really important when you're putting on reds. Our base is absolutely perfect right now. Insanely gorgeous, so even, so perfect. Now, if we took the gloss and applied it from root to end, we're gonna add more pigment here at her base, which could potentially lean into giving us a hot root effect. We don't want an overly pigmented base. So the way that I'm going to apply my base is I'm gonna start essentially from my eyebrow bone down, which is exactly where I put the peak of my color. We're gonna let that process for about 10 to 15 minutes. Then I may apply it to my base just to make sure everything is super even. Okay, so the formula that I'm going in with, essentially I'm trying to create an 8C. So I'm using 30 grams of 6C, 5 grams of 6R, and 20 grams of clear. That 20 grams of clear is gonna take my formulation and shear it out. I'll likely be between a level 7 and an 8 copper with just a little bit of that red to fill in where some of these highlights got nice and light. So again, like I said, I'm gonna take my gloss formula and I'm applying from eyebrow bone down first. We're gonna saturate that really well into our highlights. I can't wait for you guys to see this dry because the subtle contrast between the highlights and the lightener highlights is so beautiful. Truly is just such an even, beautiful, multi-dimensional red, which I love. And we did it so fast. And again, this is a work smarter, not harder application process. I'm just picking up large panels and applying from where I know I applied my highlights and down. So I'm not sectioning in a million different sections. I'm not taking a million tiny little small sections. If we think about the way that our glosses and toners work, is they start coloring the hair the second they touch the hair. So if it takes you from your starting point to your finishing point 10 minutes to put it on, your first section has already been processing for 10 minutes. So always keep that in mind when you're processing your glosses. I know sometimes we like to do 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Just make sure that everything is processing equally. So I'm gonna finish applying this all over her head and then I'll see you guys back for the after. And here's our end result. What do you guys think? I am absolutely obsessed with this gloss formula and how it turned out. Drop me a comment if you are absolutely obsessed with this formula too. Quick recap, we popped our base on first, we sectioned out all of our perimeter all along her hairline, did our highlights with our lightener and with our ultra lift. We also went in with those horizontal partings, doing those really wide, almost like plank highlights, alternating between our lightener and our high lift, pulled everything through, and then did a single gloss. The one thing I really, really want you to look at, we did no root shadow, no root melting, anything like that. And because of that strategic placement, all of those highlights around her face start right around her eyebrow and down and blend seamlessly. Drop me a comment if you guys are obsessed. Let me know what you guys think, and we'll see you at the next one.